Today we continue our NHL offseason review. We're still working on the Atlantic Division, and today we're looking at the Buffalo Sabres. What have they accomplished this offseason? Are they going to be a better team, a worse team, about the same? Or do they have any unfinished business left before this offseason concludes? We'll discuss all that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're continuing on with our NHL offseason review series, and today we're looking at the Buffalo Sabres. So the next couple of videos will be the two teams in Florida between the Panthers and the Lightning to wrap up this division, and then we'll move on to the next division in our series, which will be one of them in the Western Conference. Now, what were the objectives heading into this offseason for the Buffalo Sabres, and what was the real goals here for General Manager Kevin Adams? I think it's fair to say he knew going into this offseason that he had some pretty hefty tasks ahead of him, including trading three of his big players, including Jack Eichel, Sam Reinhart, and Rasmus Ristolainen. All three players were eager to move on, two of which have been now done, and they had to basically tear this thing down and kind of start from scratch. Even though this franchise has been underwhelming for the past decade, it's been such a mess that they kind of need to strip it down here yet again and kind of start fresh here and get this current management team and new coaching staff a chance to move forward with a fresh start. That's kind of what their goals were, and obviously they want to get back as best of a return as possible in some of these big trades. It's a situation where Kevin Adams really can't afford to screw things up and set the team back even further. So, of course, we're going to now look at how this roster's changed. What have they done for trades? How did they make out in the expansion draft? What did they do with the NHL draft? Players are coming in and out, and what is left for them to do before training camps open here in the fall. So let's take a look first at what they did for trades. Now, the trading activity is not done yet, but it has certainly gone relatively well, I must say. I mean, considering all things, I think Kevin Adams has done an okay job. Now, the first big one he pulled off was Rasmus Ristolainen. Of course, Ristolainen brought back a pretty solid return, being traded to the Philadelphia Flyers for defenseman Robert Hagg, who can be a serviceable NHL caliber defenseman. Plus, they get a first-round pick and a second-round pick. Now, that's a pretty good haul for a guy in Rasmus Ristolainen, who has been, kind of somewhat of a polarizing figure. I mean, if you go around the league and look at difference of opinions on him, certainly, there's the variety out there. I know Sabres fans are often fond of how hard he played and the fact that he really did care and tried hard. And, that's something that the Flyers really wanted, was that effort level. And he certainly brings that each and every night. So they got the Rasmus Ristolainen deal done. They didn't make out too badly in that respect. Next up, they traded Sam Reinhart on the second day of the NHL draft. He goes down to the Florida Panthers. In return, they get a good goaltending prospect with Devin Levi, a first-round pick. That first-round pick does have some protection on it. So if the Panthers completely bail out and have a bad season, end up in the lottery, there's a chance that it could be delayed a year. But either way, they're getting a first-round pick for sure, which is still pretty good, and a good goaltending prospect here. So even though that might seem underwhelming based on what they got for Ristolainen, it's still pretty good, in my opinion. And they also picked up Will Butcher from the New Jersey Devils, basically for nothing, since they were able to absorb his full cap hit. So there's some significant changes right there. They have two of the three big names that they were looking to move are done. They also bring in a guy who was falling out of favor, looking for a fresh start out of New Jersey, Will Butcher. So obviously things are starting to look a little different now in Buffalo. Now, of course, when it came to the expansion draft, they really weren't in too bad a shape in that regard. I mean, obviously they were in a situation where the most of their players who they were concerned about could be protected. So they knew going into this it wasn't going to be a complete catastrophe here by any means, and there was a decent chance that they could end up losing a potential defenseman. So they end up losing Will Borgen in expansion, and I know some Sabres fans were a little disappointed in that, but at the same time, he's a player that isn't going to really probably make or break your franchise, but at least, he was a younger talent that they saw, having some potential, which is, of course, why Seattle obviously took him here as well. But obviously, compared to some teams, that's not as big a blow as it could have been. Of course, they picked first overall in the NHL draft and were able to get their hands on Owen Power, which is something that they were quite happy to do. I know there was a lot of talk they were going to try to get another high first-round pick heading into this draft, and they did end up pulling that, and they ended up getting into the first round again through the Flyers deal where they get Isaac Rosen at number 14. So overall, they had a pretty decent draft. They, obviously did okay in the expansion draft with what they lost, and they've made some decent trades. So that part of the offseason so far has gone, as almost as good as can be expected here for Adams and the Sabres. Now, who have they brought into the organization or re-signed? Because obviously a lot of players need new contracts. So they've signed John Hayden. They brought back Brandon Davidson. They've signed a former draft pick of theirs from way back who's actually now rejoining the organization, and Mark Pysyk. They brought back Drake Caggiula. They also signed Ryan McInnes and Vinny Hinostroza. And after needing some goaltending in a fairly desperate way, they've signed a couple of veteran guys in Craig Anderson, who was contemplating retirement, and Aaron Dell as well. So certainly nothing in those that list of players that they've brought in or brought back are going to blow you away and be like, oh, wow, that's a great signing. None of these were really those types of pickups. I mean, the goaltending could be rough. The team in front of them is likely going to be very rough. I mean, with what they've brought in here, like I said, there's really nothing exciting at all. Now, what has left the organization, besides what we talked about already via trade, obviously, like I said, they lost Reinhart via trade. They've sent out Ristolainen. Now, what else did they do? Well, they lost their main goaltender, Linus Ullmark, via free agency. They weren't offering enough to keep him, so he goes and signs with the Boston Bruins. So Ullmark's no longer here. We got Jake McCabe. It was not a huge shocker. He got way more money in Chicago than the Sabres were willing to spend to bring him back. So another defender out the window here for Buffalo, who was actually, a decent player for them. And some depth pieces, and Matt Urban and John Sebastian Day are also gone from the organization. So if you take a look at what's going on here, ultimately at the end of the day, Kevin Adams is trying to stockpile, pick some prospects for the future, and essentially following the objective, like I said, and kind of tearing things down and trying to start from scratch here. Now, before we go into the rest of this video, I do need to pause for a moment and acknowledge one of our channel sponsors, Ekster Smart Wallets. Top Shelf Hockey is proud to be sponsored by Ekster. Forbes calls Ekster the most successful smart wallet brand in the world. They certainly have high-quality products, high-grade leather. You can put all your cards in your wallet with RFID protection, and you can track it worldwide. That's the best part. You don't have to worry about losing your wallet and not being able to track it down. They have a great selection of products to choose from here, a variety of colors and styles, something to surely help for everyone. As you can see in the demonstration here for the product I have, this is a beautiful packaging, high quality. When you open it up, you get a high quality wallet with lots of slots for your cards. You have yourself a money clip if you want to carry cash on you here as well. And certainly, as you can see, the quality is outstanding. And here you can see the switch where you can help open up your cards. You just one little click and boom, everything fans out right in front of you. Easy to access. Your cards are protected. And here's the back where you have yet another slot. A terrific overall product, and I can't recommend these enough. Ekster ships worldwide, and you can check out the link down below in the description as well as the pinned comment to buy yours today. So thanks very much for watching that promotional video from Ekster. I greatly appreciate it. They have terrific products. There is a link down below in the pinned comment if you want to check out their site and consider making a purchase there. Now, on to the remainder of the Sabres offseason. So we've discussed now the trades they've made, what's gone in, what's gone out. The next big question is, do they have any unfinished business? And this is a real easy one of all the teams we talked about. Absolutely, they do. And now a lot of teams have at least a little bit of unfinished business. Most of it's minor at this point. The Sabres have huge unfinished business, and Captain Jack Eichel desperately wants to be moved. His agents want him to be moved, and yet we still do not have a deal. We've been talking about the Eichel trade for so long now. I mean, we've had all these teams being in and out of the trade equations. We've had the Rangers, we've seen the Wild, the Kings, the Ducks, to a degree, Boston, to a degree, the Calgary Flames. We've had other teams reportedly jumping in, that maybe not as serious, like Montreal, Columbus. Like, there's tons of interest in this player, but the asking price has been astronomical, as much as 5 pieces. At least 4 of them going back are going to be quality of a first-round pick, so either a first-round draft pick or maybe a recently drafted first-round player. They're looking for a substantial haul here, and they want to take back as little as possible in the way of NHL roster players and money on the cap. So clearly, this is no easy task. Now, like I said, they've had lots of conversations. All kinds of teams are showing interest. They've yet to reach a deal, which is not really a huge surprise here. They've got to get this right. And Adams is trying to get an absolute king's ransom here, which he feels he deserves based on the quality of the hockey player that he's moving. It's just that simple, and I get that. But they need to get something done before training camp. I don't really feel the Buffalo Sabres are in a situation here where they can bring him back. He can't be in the room. Like, it's just too awkward at this point. It's been too public about him wanting out. It's his agents made some pretty bold statements against the team and him getting his neck surgery to get healed up and ready to go for next year. It's too far gone and it's too nasty. And as much as I get everything that Adams wants to do to make sure he gets this right and gets the best return, you do at this point have to wonder, and we'll only find out when it finally goes down, is did he overplay his hand and has Kevin Adams waited too long to make this trade so that if he gets closer to training camp, I don't think the return asking price is going to go up from the teams, like the offer. It's not like somebody's going to pick up the phone and be like, okay, we're throwing in a top prospect now. Like the Ducks aren't going to suddenly be like, you know what, we made us sweat it out. We're gonna throw in Trevor Zegras now. Like they're going to be looking to them saying, you guys are getting more hard up to get this done because of the distraction to the team, the player and the agent frustration. This is boiling over. So we're not budging. If anything, we're going to offer you slightly less and think you're going to take it. So it could become a real waiting game on both sides, and it could even drag on even before camp. But if it's not done by training camp, I don't see Jack Eichel reporting. There's no sense. I mean, theoretically, he still needs his procedure done, and the longer it goes, it's going to be harder to do because the team is going to have to wait for him to have the surgery and not much longer to get into the lineup. It's just an absolute mess. So as much as I get why they're wanting to take the time to get this right, you have to wonder if it's too much. Like, have they waited too long that they've screwed the possibility of getting a good return? So, yeah, they absolutely have unfinished business. And depending on the outcome of that Eichel trade will really determine like the grade or the outcome here of this team. But when you look at the possibility of are they going to be a better team next year? Not at all. Are they going to be a worse team? Almost guaranteed, and they weren't great last year. Are they going to be about the same? No. To me, they're going to be a worse team. To me, you're looking at the Buffalo Sabres, along with maybe a team like Arizona, based on where they're heading here, as a race for the bottom. They want to be able to get near the top of that draft in the next 2 years, and they want to get some guys that can really push this team forward. The next two drafts are way deeper than 2021, and I can see a situation where they're really gunning for that and trying to tank to get those high picks to really push this team forward, and that's what they're looking to do. So I'm not sure what we're going to really see out of Buffalo. That's why partly the reason for the Eichel return is they don't want great players. They want future great players so they can be bad for the next couple of years, not spend a ton of money in the process of doing so, and gain enough picks and prospects that in a couple of years' time they can really start to take some steps forward. So to me, the Sabres have had a decent offseason just because of what they're trying to accomplish. If a team wasn't trying to be bad and they didn't want to get worse, then obviously they'd be getting a miserable failing grade. But this is what they're trying to do. This is what they set out to do. So based on those standards, they've done a decent job at accomplishing what they want. And at the end of the day, I think I do agree that this was probably necessary given the fact that these players are been there a long time. They never had the success. They want to get a fresh start. Get them out while you can. Get good value. Get a good opportunity to rebuild here. But you got to get this one right. The fans deserve better than a 10-year plus rebuild. They need to be able to get some winning results here in the next couple of years. Or as much as this fan base is really solid and has a lot of great, passionate fans, that patience is going to wane thin here, and they're going to start to really feel it at the box office and in the revenue area here in the next little while if things don't get better and start getting on the right track. So let me know your thoughts on the Sabres offseason down below in the comments, and we'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.